Welcome to our grants workshop. Rhode Island is known for its creative economy and the vitality and diversity of its arts and cultural organizations. This is a testament to work you do every day to expand opportunities for Rhode Islanders to experience and participate in the arts and humanities. The National Endowment for the Arts and the National Endowment for the Humanities have resources and expertise to help you expand your programming and your reach. Today's workshop is designed to connect you to these resources. I'd like to thank Ben Kessler at National Endowment for the Arts and Allison Shear at the National Endowment for the Humanities for working with us on today's webinar. I'd also like to thank the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts and the Rhode Island Council for the Humanities for their extraordinary leadership in making Rhode Island a model for the nation when it comes to the arts and humanities. My office is ready to assist and support you as you apply for federal grants. Please stay in contact with Erin Archon, who is our Director of Federal Projects, about your applications for federal grants. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this exciting virtual workshop that we have. I want to welcome all of our attendees from across the state of Rhode Island. I want to give a special thanks to our partners in this presentation today, the National Endowment for the Arts and the National Endowment for the Humanities. A particular thanks to Allison Shear, the Director of Congressional Affairs at the NEH, and also Jen Hughes, the Senior Advisor on Partnerships, Expansion, and Innovation at the NEA. We'd also like to thank Ben Kessler at the NEA for his partnership as well. This event was brought together relatively quickly, an outgrowth of an event we did recently in Rhode Island, and so many of you are a great part of that. We'd also like to thank RISCA and the Rhode Island Council for the Humanities for their continued and enduring partnership with our office. With that, I'd like to introduce Allison Shear, the Director of Congressional Affairs, for a presentation on the NEH.
Hi, everybody. I'm Allison from the NEH, and I just want to start by saying a big thank you to the Senator and his tremendous staff, both in Rhode Island and in DC, for helping put today's webinar together. As you all know, or hopefully will know, the Senator's leadership and commitment to the arts and humanities is so important and such a testament to him personally and his support for you all throughout the state. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today, along with my friend Jen, and the Rhode Island Arts Council and the Rhode Island Council on the Humanities. I also want to say a special thank you to the Senator and our state partners for putting together a fantastic visit for NEH's Chair, Shelley C. Lowe. She and I had the opportunity to visit your great state the other week, and we really enjoyed seeing the wonderful humanities institutions throughout the state. Next slide. So generally, the first question I get when talking about both my job and the agency is, what exactly are the humanities? The NEH founding legislation does use an awful lot of words to describe it, such as the study and interpretation of languages, linguistics, history, jurisprudence, archaeology, and on and on and on. And you see it in this list here. But for me, the best way to really demonstrate the humanities is through the projects that we fund. Next slide, please. And here are a few projects that NEH has funded in Rhode Island that can give you a good idea of the breadth and variety of our grant lines. Medical humanities is a subject that the NEH has been interested in over the last several years. Johnson and Wales University was awarded a grant to develop an interdisciplinary minor in medical and health humanities that will enhance health education while infusing humanities content and practices into the curriculum to demonstrate the real-world application of humanities. This will help students to develop valuable skills in critical thinking and analysis, problem-solving, communication, but also increase familiarity with culturally diverse approaches to disease and healthcare, encouraging the development of empathy. Next slide, please. Sharon Murphy, a professor of history at Providence College, received this fellowship to help research a book she's writing on about finance with the focus on the conscious choices made by bankers directly, knowingly, and explicitly interacting with the slave system and how that impacted their work and slavery at large. Next slide, please. Thanks to the assistance of Senator Reed to organize the group and with the participation of the Providence Public Library, in participation with the Rhode Island Historical Society, Rhode Island has put together an extensive newspaper digitization project in conjunction with the National Digital Newspaper Program, which is at the Library of Congress. This program is all participating of all 50 states to digitize their historical newspapers and make them freely available and searchable. I would suggest you check out Chronicling America is the website to explore the papers that Rhode Island has put together for this project. Next slide, please. Here is an example of a community organization that people are excited about, supporting, but don't necessarily want their brass plaque on the HVAC system. And with valuable historic collections, those systems are important. NEH is happy to help financially with those sort of less sexy projects, but no less important. The Providence Athenaeum was awarded a $350,000 Sustaining Cultural Heritage Grant to install a new climate control system to improve environmental conditions and mitigate the risks to their collection. Next slide. Finally, at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, RISD, the museum, had a plan to inventory, assess, photograph, and rehouse roughly 900 objects in their collection of Asian costumes and textiles. However, it was delayed a little bit because of COVID. Like many things, the closure of the museum forced them to pivot to remote working and teaching. We were still able to help award funding for viewing of the objects in the museum study rooms and galleries virtually. And the popular collection now has more than adequate documentation for remote learning for students and the public alike. Next slide, please. Basically, my key takeaway today is that all of this information is on our website, www.neh.gov. NEH program grant lines are competitive, but you will not receive a grant if you don't apply. If you're thinking about applying for a grant, you should read our Notice of Funding Opportunity. That's called the guidelines that will help you write a better application. And most importantly, talk to the NEH program officers. This is literally what they live for. Senator Reed's office can help you get in touch with myself. I do have my contact information at the end of the slides. And we are here to help you navigate the system. Next slide. Baseline, you may be wondering who's eligible to apply. Most of our grant applicants are US-based nonprofit institutions like libraries, museums, or universities. They have to have 501c3 status. We do also have a few grant lines designed to support individual scholars doing research and writing. Those can include independent scholars, as well as those attached to a college or a university. Applicants must be citizens or reside in the US for at least 3 years before the deadline. Students, unfortunately, are not eligible. Next slide, please. Unlike our sister agency, the NEH has almost 50 grant lines, so I will not be walking through them individually to save us all. And you may find yourself just a touch overwhelmed when trying to find the right program for your project. On this slide, we highlight kind of the first question is, who's the audience for? And the audience will often determine which of our divisions is the right one for you. If you're looking for infrastructure help, that's going to be our challenge programs. If you're making a documentary to run on PBS, that'll be public programs. If you're looking to write a book, that's research. If you're looking for education programs for teachers and students, well, hopefully education is there to help you put your project together. If you go to our website, you'll see that the various divisions laid out and a little bit about each of them, and to help you tailor in what you're looking for to fund your project. Next slide, please. This is what our homepage looks like. This is an older slide capture. This is our chair below. It's not actually our homepage picture anymore, but the top line is still there. And that bright yellow arrow will take you to our grants subpage. So when you click on that, next slide, please. You'll come up to a page that outlines our divisions and offices. And if you click on the office, you will see a full list of grants that each of those office or divisions runs. Next slide, please. For example, here we have the Division of Preservation and Access. And on the right side is all of their grants. Scrolling through the list, if you click on one, it'll bring you to the grant information page. And this is where you'll find everything you need to know about each grant, including examples, deadlines, and how to apply. Next slide, please. Just a little bit about our review process. Once you finish your application, we go through a fairly robust peer review process. First step is NEH staff reviewing for eligibility and completeness. The next step, and it's really central to the work we do at NEH, is the outside peer review panel. During this peer review process, evaluators read the application, write comments, and provide ratings. And they meet to discuss applications, the pros and the cons, and provide a final rating, feedback, and comments to the staff. Staff then take those comments, put it all together to present to the National Council on the Humanities, which is 26 Senate confirmed scholars nominated by the president. And the council then makes final recommendations to the chair, who makes final decisions. It's a long process, but it allows for a very in-depth review. And it also helps explain why it might take up to a year between when your application is due to when you're going to hear the results. Next slide, please. Just a few tips. Reach out early with a short description of your project to a program officer. Again, they will offer advice. Most of our grant lines have a draft deadline where they can review rough draft of application and provide feedback on it. They will be able to help you develop the strongest application possible. All of our materials are on the website. Like many federal grants, it's dense, it's complicated, but it's all there, and the program officers can help you work through all of it. One other idea is reach out to institutions that have received NEH grants. If you're curious, I'm happy to provide that information to you directly, or if you want to reach out to the senator's staff, they can get that information. And so you can contact other institutions and talk to them about their process. Next slide. This is a very, very competitive process. And for many of our grant lines, we can only fund around 10% of the applications we receive. So don't be discouraged if you get turned down. Instead, we encourage you to make plans to reapply. The biggest things you can do to make yourself more successful the next time around is request the panelist reviewers' comments and contact a program officer if you hadn't been the first time to walk through all of the process. Oftentimes we see much more success on a second or a third application. I know it can be strenuous, especially for smaller organizations, and that's why I encourage you to reach out early to get the help you need to get your grant application in the best shape possible. Next slide. Again, if your question isn't answered today, you can write congressional@neh.gov. That's a general mailbox that goes to myself and my team. And then Aaron and Moira, who are on the call today, have my direct contact information. So please reach out anytime directly. I can help you find the people you need to talk to be the most successful you can be. That's it for me. Thank you.
So our next presentation will be from Jen Hughes, the Senior Advisor on Partnerships, Expansion, and Innovation at the NEA, and we are so grateful for you joining us. And Derek will let you know
Wonderful.
as soon as the PowerPoint's ready.
That and here. All right, all good to go.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you all so much, and thanks for your patience and bearing with me. But I'm so excited to be here with everyone today. We are so grateful to Senator Reed for all the work that he does for arts and culture in Rhode Island and all across the country. The legacy of Senator Pell is alive and well, thanks to Senator Reed and the entire Rhode Island congressional delegation. And thank you, Moira, for bringing us together today. You are a true NEA expert. I've heard wonderful things from my colleague, Ben, and we're just so pleased to partner and be present on this webinar today. So let's go to slide 2. Our goal today is not only to provide a deep dive into the NEA funding opportunities, but really to demystify the National Endowment for the Arts and our application process. Along the way, you'll see organizations from your community who have received grants from the NEA in the last year. And whether you're a seasoned grant writer or applying with us for the first time, we hope that you feel really welcome and that the NEA is accessible. We want you to leave this meeting knowing that NEA grant is within your reach and that you have the tools you need to apply with us and can certainly connect with our staff. So please know this is the beginning of a conversation, so please be sure to stay in touch with us, and I'll make sure to share my email address and contact information as well. So on slide 3, you'll see Artful Lives. Chair Maria Rosario Jackson, the head of the NEA, has implored us to really continue to strengthen our work with communities all across the country, which is why I'm just so excited to be joining you for this conversation today. Since you all are all here, I trust you know at least a little bit about the National Endowment for the Arts, but just to give you a very quick word about who we are. The NEA, a federal agency, is the largest funder of arts and arts education in communities nationwide and a catalyst of public and private support for the arts. So on slide 4, if we go to that next slide, with support from Congress and arts champions like Senator Reed, the NEA is able to fund organizations directly at the federal level and in partnership with the 6 regional arts organizations and 56 state and jurisdictional arts agencies, and at the local level. We couldn't do this work without those who have the greatest knowledge of and proximity to their communities. And that's why 40% of all our grant-making dollars flow to the regional arts organizations and state arts agencies. So when you're considering applying for federal funding, we hope that you'll also consider applying at every level. We are so glad and grateful for our friends from RISCA. Shout out to Lynn McCormick, who is joining us today as well. And so on slide 5, if we go to that one, just really wanted to reiterate the importance of the 60-40 split. You should certainly be looking to the NEA for direct grant funding support, but also keep in mind that 40% of our funding flows to that state and regional level, and be checking out opportunities there as well. As we go to slide 6, there are certain requirements you must meet in order to be eligible to apply for an NEA grant. You have to be a nonprofit at the time of application, 501c3 organization, a unit of state or local government, or a federally recognized tribal community or tribe at the time of application. You must be able to demonstrate 3 years of history of arts programming. That doesn't mean you need to be a nonprofit for 3 years. You have to be a nonprofit at the time of application, but you must be able to demonstrate 3 years of arts programming history. You also must provide a one-to-one cost share match of non-federal funds. The match can be achieved in a variety of ways, including earned and donated income. We also work with our grantees to make sure that they can meet that match requirement, even through in-kind dollars. So the match can be a combination of these sources. And for previous grant recipients, you must be in compliance with reporting requirements for previous NEA awards. So on slide 7, let's talk a little bit about what we fund. So our funding supports arts projects. So on the left side of the screen, you'll see the types of organizations that are eligible to apply for funding at our agency. Again, just a reminder, eligibility is open to tax-exempt organizations, including 501c3 nonprofits, units of state or local governments, including local arts agencies and educational institutions, federally recognized tribal communities or tribes. And it's important to note that for K-12 schools, school districts are eligible for funding, but not individual schools. So on the right side of the screen, you'll see examples of things that we're not able to support. So that includes general operating support. We are funding project-based projects and proposals, and we'll talk a bit more about that. We can't directly fund individual artists with the exception of fellowships or literature, but I'll add the caveat that being an arts agency, we love seeing our funding supporting individual artists, so you certainly should be putting into your budget form those line items to support individual artists' work, but we just can't fund them directly. We also can't fund commercial activities or fiscal sponsors, and we have a full list of items of what we do not fund, which is published on our guidelines and available on our website, arts.gov. And of course, if you have a question about any of these eligibility requirements, want to just vet or check your eligibility to apply, would certainly encourage you to reach out to us. So let's go to slide 8, just to give you an overview of the different funding categories offered by the NEA. So NEA has funding opportunities for organizations that include Challenge America, grants for arts projects, Our Town, and research grants. And these are the largest grants we offer, and nonprofit organizations receive the bulk of our direct funding. Just to let you know, grants for individuals are limited to our literature fellowships, though we do offer recognition to jazz artists through the NEA Jazz Masters Program and folk and traditional artists through our National Heritage Fellowship Program. Generally, a rule of thumb is you can submit one application per year per organization, but there are definitely some exceptions to that rule. So for example, you have to decide to apply to either Challenge America or Grants for Arts projects, but you also may consider submitting an application for Our Town or research grants. All applications to the agency must be for distinctly different projects or phases in the project. So let's go on to slide 9 and dive a little bit deeper. So Challenge America. This is really an entry point to the NEA. It's a great place to start if you've never applied to the agency before. There are some specific guidelines to just consider. You have to not be funded by other programs at the NEA in the last 3 years, because this really is intended to cultivate and support new applicants to the agency. Challenge America primarily supports small organizations to extend the reach of the arts to populations that are underserved. And all grantees must address how their organization or audience has been underserved. Underserved is defined by our legislation and agency policy and refers to those whose opportunities to experience the arts are limited by geography, ethnicity, economics, or disability. All Challenge America awards are straight $10,000 and require a one-to-one match. There's an abbreviated application, robust technical assistance and support as you apply, and the deadline is typically in April of each year. So let's jump down to the next category, slide 10, the Our Town program. And this is a program that is near and dear to my heart. I was the Director of Design and Creative Placemaking for the last several years and have been working on the Our Town program since its inception. And the Our Town category is to support projects in creative placemaking. So what do we mean by creative placemaking? And I think the most simple definition is that it's a really broad tense. It's focused on the integration of arts, culture, and design into efforts that strengthen local communities. So we have a great list of past projects that we've supported on our website. If you're looking for inspiration, there are some very specific additional requirements for Our Town. First and foremost, these are partnership projects. So we are looking for organizations to apply in partnership with a local government or quasi-government organization. And we'll be refreshing guidelines that will be posted in May of this year with the deadline of August. So these are projects where we're really trying to hope, pilot, or catalyze new ways that arts and culture can help to advance local community outcomes. And the hope is that all sectors of community development really recognize the value that arts and culture can play as an integrated strategy into helping advance outcomes as it relates to public health, to transportation, and other sectors in a community. So these grants range from $25,000 to $150,000 with a one-to-one required match. So let's hop down to slide 11, and we saved the Grants for Arts Projects category for this moment because it's our largest flagship grant-making program. We have an upcoming deadline of February 9th. Applications are submitted to one of 15 discipline programs at either the February or July deadline. So if that February deadline is feeling really close, certainly take a look at the grant guidelines, but know that you could choose to apply at the July deadline. Funding for this program is available for all stages of the artistic process, can include creation, presentation, and exhibition, arts education and enrichment, as well as services to the field such as arts and cultural conferences, professional development for artists, etc. All grants require at least a one-to-one match, and awards range from $10,000 to $100,000, and the project timeline can be up to 2 years. So let's go now to slide 12 to talk about our research grants very briefly. We have 2 types of research awards: social and behavioral sciences and value and impact for the arts. I think these are pretty specific guidelines, typically are funding university institutions or institutions that are interrogating some research questions as it relates to arts and culture, but it's an important thing to kind of lift up and put on your radar if you have projects that might fall or align with these grant guidelines. Okay, slide 13. We have some great applicant resources. First and foremost, I would encourage you to take a look at our guidelines webinars where we go more deeply into the grant program and funding opportunities. We have a couple great webinars that are already up on our website, recordings that you might want to watch as it relates to the Grants for Arts project category. I think you can be on the lookout for Challenge America, Our Town, and research grants in the future. 2, get in touch with the NEA staff. Staff love discussing project ideas, helping to support applicants in preparing a competitive application. So we have a list of all of our staff contacts available up on the website, so I would certainly encourage you to be in touch. And lastly, if you're applying for the very first time and you want to sort of get a feel for what project narratives might look like, I would encourage you to just take a look at this final link to take a look at our sample project narratives. And next, I just want to make a plug on slide 14. Apply to be a panelist. If you want to sort of get the inside scoop, understand how we panel and review applications, this is a great way to really be in service to your country. We affectionately call it arts jury duty. And it can be a really fun process to see all the great work that is coming from across the country. So make sure you go here, fill out our form, and volunteer to be a panelist if you'd like to do so. So lastly, slide 15, in addition to following us on social media, you can find everything you need on our website, arts.gov, including contact information for staff who are eager to help you with learning more about the application process. And any other questions you might have, I'll just share my email address is Hughes, Hughes, j@arts.gov. So if I'm not the right person, I am happy to direct you to the right colleague at the NEA to answer questions or talk about any of our grant funding programs. And really appreciate your patience with me getting online, and hope to hear from you all, and certainly if there's time, happy to answer any questions.
With that, it doesn't seem like we have any other questions. But just wanted to kind of reiterate again, my name is Erin Arcand. I work in Senator Reed's Providence office. My email's in the chat. You can always reach me at 401-943-3100. We want to be helpful in all of your endeavors and looking for federal grant opportunities and advancing the great work that you're all doing. So with that, I just want to thank Jen and Allison again and their agencies for making this opportunity available to Rhode Island and everyone who joined us today. Thank you so much.